Welcome everyone to a very special edition of our EV podcast, Leaders in Sustainability. Today we are privileged to have the participation from leaders from different industries, customers and suppliers of Element who will share the challenges, opportunities, and best practices around sustainability. I would like to start the guest introduction by welcoming you, Laura, Global President and CEO of Element. Laura is our global leader and CEO. She has more than 20 years of professional experience in leadership positions, particularly in the banking sector. Her strategic and digitalization skills stand out, and in addition, she is a clean mobility enthusiast. Laura, bienvenida a Mexico. We feel very privileged to have you here with us. The second guest I would like to introduce is Daniel Rios, Assistant Vice President of Corporate Affairs and Sustainability at AT&T Mexico. Daniel has more than 20 years of experience in the telecommunications sector and is an expert in regulatory policy, where he has contributed to the development of several regulatory and international policy projects and strategies. Also, Daniel is one of the leading voices of the inclusion agenda in the country. Danny, we are eager to learn more about the role of the telecommunications sector in the decarbonization transition. The third guest, and that I'm very honored to introduce, is Fernanda Guarro, who since 2021 is President and Managing Director of 3M Mexico. She has more than 20 years of experience in integrated supply chain management, business analysis, crisis management, PMO, and strategic planning. Fer was recognized in LinkedIn as a top voice by Forbes as part of the 100 most powerful women in Mexico, and a woman of excellence by the WEF. Fer, looking forward to hearing about the 3M strategy as well as your personal experience. My next guest is someone very well known in the electromobility sector, Vicente Magaña, Country Manager of ABB. Vicente has a degree in applied mathematics and computer science from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM. He has more than 30 years of experience. He first joined ABB Mexico in 2011 as a sales director for industrial solutions and has held various management and leadership positions with the company throughout the Latin American region. Thank you, Vicente. Can't wait to hear about ABB's plans and developments. Last but not least, we have the participation of a guest who, in addition of having taken a flight from Monterrey to attend the podcast, participates in the implementation of sustainable strategies of a key Mexican company, Abraham Garza, Sustainability and Social Responsibility Manager at FEMSA. Abraham has more than 60 years of experience in sustainability and corporate consulting, and he has worked for Grupo FEMSA for more than 10 years. Thank you, Abraham, for coming from Monterrey to share with us FEMSA's vision and strategy. The podcast will be guided in 4 different questions, in which I will ask each of you to have an open conversation. So I would like to start the first question with you, Fernanda. 3M is a very intensive company in the production or fabrication of products that make our lives safer and more efficient.
And easier.
In this sense, what are your company's ESG commitments and how do you see the outlook towards 2030 and 2040?
Thank you, Jorge, for the invitation and for the opportunity to be here with all of you. My pleasure. So our strategic sustainability framework at 3M, it's based in our purpose, which is reimagine what is possible through science. We are a scientific company where everything is possible through science and innovation. Also, we are one of the most innovative companies around the world with more than 60,000 products in the market. In different industries, we cover more than 23 different industries. So under this idea, our sustainability framework covers 3 main pillars. So science always will be part of. So it's science to improve climate change, science to foster circular economy, and last but not least, science to improve the life of our communities. So in every of those pillars, we have very specific initiatives, of course, KPIs. So in terms of our actions for the 4th quarter in 2023, we committed a near-term reduction target for our scope in 1, 2, and 3 greenhouse emissions. So that was very important when you analyze that we have more than 200 manufacturing sites around the world. So it's not easy to think about that reduction, but we are very intensive in making it possible. and to make the transition plan by the 2025 with updated scenarios analysis. This plan will set 4 of our main strategies, that is building resiliencies and transitioning to a sustainable economy, including around carbon reduction. And also another important piece that we have been working very hard is in terms of the improving our environment through the better water usage and the quality of water, not just the quantity, but also the quality of water that we return to our communities where we operate. We do believe that's one of the most important things that as 3M we can, with this manufacturing intensiveness that we can do for our communities. Also, we have reduced very much the usage of plastics in our own products. So just imagine that on a yearly basis, 3M puts in the market around 1,000 new products every year. No? So having a strong pipeline in terms of sustainability and making sure all those products comply with sustainability is not an easy task, right? But we have been improving very much, like reducing virgin fossil-based plastics by 69.8 million pounds since 2021. And also we have put in the market products such as Scotch Cushion Lock protective wrap, which is a 100% recycled material that will replace plastic bubbles wrap, for example, no? In our consumer business group unit. And our iconic Post-its also now are 100% recycled as well. So those are the type of examples, very easy to see in the market, but we are really taking very seriously our targets in terms of decarbonization. Of course, for 2050, we have committed to be neutral, but with the annual report that we have been giving to the street, of course, but also to all our stakeholders, we have been able to improve even a little bit more of what we have been targeting for each year. So that's the way that we are approaching all the sustainability framework.
Thank you, Fer. I think one of the main pillars of any multinational or national company to articulate its purpose is always the vision of the company. And I think one quote that we all will remember is imagine what is possible through science, but also placing the community at the center. And also about water usage, what a big challenge, especially what has been happening here in Mexico in terms of water. Daniel, with the information that Fernanda shares with us from a very intensive, as I was mentioning, physical product company point of view, what is the role of an ambition of a leading telecommunication company such as AT&T to mitigate emissions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very passionate about sustainability. So as a telecom company, we face a different challenge because the main contributor for emissions is our network. So we have this global goal of being carbon neutral for 2035, but also to reduce 30% our emissions by next year. So it's a big challenge. To change and to reduce emissions coming from our network, you can imagine that's quite demanding, in terms of financing resources, but also in terms of technical resources, because you need to keep having this network connecting all the people 24/7. So what we are doing is moving through all our sites, all our base stations for renewable energies. Now we grew almost 10% the number of sites that we have year over year. We are almost on the half of the way to our goal of getting 1,200 sites renewed by next year, and that's one of our main challenges in terms of scope 1, but also, for example, in terms of what we do for our supply chain. We do this also with the help of Element, in terms of changing our fleet and moving through a new way of changing the fleet. We also change all our logistics, reducing the distances. We are making also changes in terms of our packaging, moving through more sustainable materials, like Fer mentioned. Something which might sound small, but in terms of our employees, we are being part of an initiative related to changing the way the people moves around the office. We are in an initiative with BBVA and HSBC and another banks in the Corredor Reforma. So for sharing cars, sharing buses, walking distance things. This may sound small, but it's basically changing the culture of the company, changing the DNA of the company, which in terms of ESG is very important, because it's when you start thinking that other things like the network will come by design, because you start thinking in terms of ESG. And this is really, really important. And that's how we are moving forward our goals for carbon neutral.
Thank you, Dan. I think change starts always with culture, so I think it's not a small step, but a big one, and I congratulate ANT for that, and count with Element with everything we can support in the electromobility transition. Laura, Element is an asset management company, but it's also a service company with a huge chain of customers and suppliers. In this context, what are Element Scope 1, 2, and 3 sustainability objectives towards 2030?
Cool. Well, we have, I'd say, a lot of levers that we're looking on. We're focused primarily on 3 of them today, and maybe just to add on to what you said, one of the important ones before I go into targets is actually just us talking about the importance of sustainability when we're out with clients and whatnot, all for positive change for ourselves and for our planet. And so again, it might not sound like a lot, but it's something that we don't see happening perhaps as often as it should in terms of how we all think personally about what we're doing for our environment. So we have a few goals that are in place today, and as it relates to Scope 1, 2, and 3, we are looking at, for our internal fleet, that we would be 100% electrified by 2025. So we're a third of the way there in North America, and we're already done in Australia and New Zealand. And then when it comes to our clients, and this is always, it takes the cooperation of our clients, and it's tricky because of large complex fleets, but we are trying to get to where we convert 350,000 vehicles that we can do by 2030. And even with that, we'd still be just above 10% roughly of our 2030 target. So we still have quite a bit of work to do in that regard to hit that target. So feel a bit of pressure on that one. But notwithstanding, because we know we do need to do the right thing. In March, we actually signed up for the Science Based Targets initiatives. So that's where we're really focused on near-term targets. We're going to be unveiling that information in our ESG report in June, where we'll have those that we'll be working towards in more detail to do our bit for the environment.
I really like what you said. You have to start, I think, at home, always setting an example, and the goals of the subsidiaries at Element are highly ambitious, and I'm part of that too.
We're going to do it with our clients.
Exactly.
So we should get that.
Exactly.
Sure.
No pressure, no pressure.
I would like to close, Abraham, with you on this question, since the objectives of Grupo FEMSA are aligned with the reality of Mexico, both its opportunities and challenges as a country. In this scenario, what is your company's sustainability strategy in this short, medium, and long term?
Sure. Well, also thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here. And well, in FEMSA Proximity and Health, which is the division I represent, we operate OXXO stores, OXXO gas fuel stations, ISA and Cruz Verde pharmacies, and other retail businesses. And part of our mission is to generate social and economic value, both at the same time. And this social value is structured in our ESG agenda with 3 pillars: our people, our community, and our planet. So going deep in the part of our planet, in which mobility and emissions is taking part of, we have 2 major goals. The first one is to reach 85% renewable energy by the end of 2030. Currently, we are around 50% this energy consumption for renewable sources. The second one is to develop emission reduction goals based on the Science Based Target Initiative. Currently, FEMSA Health has already performed this exercise. We are doing the rest for the other businesses. It's quite complex. We operate in around 12 countries, and we have more than 30 brand marks. But we expect that by the end of this year, we're going to establish these goals with this standard. And we expect that the objective is going to be around, reduce around 45% Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, and 25% Scope 3 emissions. This is quite a challenge. As we will see in the conversation, we face regulatory limitations in many of the countries. We have more than 22,000 stores, and we are not like a major consumer if we see it as individual store. So the regulation does not allow to go and buy renewable energy. So we have to change the regulatory framework, do alliances to move forward regarding these energies. And also regarding the other emissions, as we are retailers, we depend on many of suppliers, distribution, the products, the services. So with Scope 3, we need to influence in the suppliers. We are somehow confident and we see the future somehow promising because now suppliers, clients are more aware of sustainability. 10 years ago, when we go with a supplier to tell, hey, do you know your carbon footprint? Do you want to take care of the environment? It's like, what? I'm just only focusing on cost and other issues. Now it's another story. But the challenge now is the velocity. I think that we all know that SDGs are not moving so good. 50% of them are in advance, but the other ones, some of them are even moving backwards. So I think that the challenge is to speed up, work together, and reach these goals as a system.
Thank you, Abraham. I agree with you. 10 years ago, Scope 3 might seem the most complex one of the scopes. But right now, with the sustainability and also what Laura was mentioning about going with clients, but also going with our suppliers, I think the conversation is becoming easier and economically wise as well. It's not just about the environment, but it's also about the profitability of each of our suppliers too.
Exactly.
Vicente, the second question is focused on you. With all the information shared by the other participants and knowing that all the companies have cars, vehicles, as part of our assets, and thus is an area to focus for decarbonization, I see ABB as a company that facilitates technological solutions for this transition. Could you tell us about ABB's portfolio, outlook, and technologies that can help mitigate gas emissions?
Absolutely, Jorge, and thanks for having me here. When you see the scope and all the companies, especially both B2B and B2C, evolving into a more sustainable future, we're looking at trends that we're looking at more electrified society. We're looking at a much more highly automated industry. And the critical point is where technology companies like ABB, when we stand for. So we stand for enable a more sustainable and resource efficient future with our technology and leadership on electrification and automation. So the electrification basically starts from the point of generation, basically on the point of consumptions. And looking at the context of Mexico, we can see that we have multiple challenges there. So we aim to be an electrify in a smarter, more reliable and emission-free way. And this includes mobility. Specifically, mobility will happen everywhere. 4 or 5 years ago, we entered into have the first plane to go around the world with no gasoline. Okay, basically with no gas, basically with all with a battery, multiple batteries in an efficient way for that. But looking at what is happening right now for us, and in this context, is we're seeing residential solutions. And the charger that you can put at your home that can be from 3 to 20 kilowatts that can be overnight, or that can energize your high power car if you happen to have those. We're also seeing a more commercial public charging, okay, in the way that when you are sitting in an office, you go to the cinema. And those kind of solutions, and even in going to the airport, we have in the new airport in Mexico City more than 20 chargers that basically you can have the full charge into that and multiple parking lots. So we're looking to build the infrastructure that is connected with the cars, but also the strengthening the reliable infrastructure that connect with the chargers. Okay, so that gives you the 360 circles on understanding from the point of generation, all the transmission, distribution to the point of connection of that when we're looking at us as the grid. The other most fascinating one is the fast charging. And the fast charging, when it takes a much more reliable power, we see our chargers for our home or for our phones. But looking at to charge a car in 20 minutes and 5 minutes or a bus, which looks amazing, it really consumes tremendous amount of power. So the ultra fast charging is looking at, and in this one we go from ranges from 50 to 360 megawatts, even more than 400 kilowatts. So this one applies for even pantographs. Okay, we have one that we use a lot of those in Europe. I'm glad to see that and share with you that we want to have the most modern city in Mérida, in Yucatan, when we installing not just the fast chargers, so what we call the ultra fast, that these pantographs charge at the point of the people downloading and uploading people. Okay, and this is highly secure, a lot of power, DC power into that, and it's a lot of fun. And there is a lot of testing, because in conditions like Mérida or Cancun, we're also working with a very large entertainment and hoteling company that in these environments, the air conditioning can consume up to 40% of the battery, which is a lot. And especially you want to have the full day, you need to have a lot of testing for that. So the technology is changing tremendously. We're looking that the market is not just increasing in the demand of vehicles or the demand on infrastructure, but also pushing the limits on efficiency. Okay, so you expect to have more range, especially you want to go in Mexico to Guadalajara to Acapulco to try to go with one full charge and not stop, especially in one area. There is a security portion that you want to go with one full charge. The other one is the grid integration. I mentioned before that the critical play that is going to have the charging innovation, but we will see that by 2030, 10% okay of the EV fleet okay in general okay is gonna consume 10% of the charge demands of energy is going to come from transportation. Okay, so we are debating that it's going to be 27 or 30% the emissions are related to transportation. Well, by 2030, okay, it's going to be 10% of the grid consumption is going to come from transportation, and it's going to be a completely different challenge. Okay, because if you go to a place where the grid of the amount of infrastructure is not enough in vacations, you're going to have a certain situations into that. The other one is the energy management. The good news here is that by 2030, when we see is that there's going to be around 1,500 gigawatts hour. Okay, that is going to be that is going to also be very positive. That you might be charging not necessarily for the grid. You might be completely off grid into that. And the vehicle to grid, that's a completely nice scenario that you can charge. You can have batteries at home, and you can have your own car, and you can have services back and forth with the grid. Okay, so you can share the load with the grid and at home and everything. So you will not have blackouts. Okay, that's the good story for that. So the number of just related to the electrification of the economy and including transportation is going to be a dramatic change when we're seeing a number of companies implementing basically the all full electric cars.
Thank you, Vicente. I think if we agree everyone to have the same podcast in 10 years' time, then the elephant in the room will not be the emissions, will be 100% will be the energy. Not just in terms of EVs, but also because every single industry is requiring more and more energy these days. So I think it will be a very good topic to discuss now on the third question, that is about challenges. And in that one, I would like to start with you, Abraham. Sure. We already had heard about the ambitious targets and the need to move fast given climate change. We heard also about Vicente, the technological solutions from the plane to ultra charging, no? That can help us achieve this transition in a more efficient way. My third question is about the obstacles. You identify in each of your industry for the countries where you operate, your products and customers, and how these challenges can be addressed. So I would like to start with you. As I said, Abraham, what challenges and solutions do you identify for FEMSA?
Sure. Well, specifically for electromobility, let's say projects, we found three main obstacles. One is change management, and not only from the user point of view. Usually when you tell the user, I'm going to give you an electric car, he's like, great, it's fanciest. But when we start evaluating all the impacts in the operation, we need more time to charge. Or he needs to charge only in these spots or in the office. Should we put a charger in his house? Should we put a charger in the distribution center? So all these other issues regarding the change in the operation, which we know we should change, are the change management required, no? To go together with the team to see how we can do this, taking care of the operation, the performance, the efficiency, but transforming the operation to achieve and go further on electromobility. The other one is the charging ecosystem. And we face the chicken egg dilemma. Which goes first? Should we start buying electric cars, electric trucks, or should we wait that the charging ecosystem is ready? So I don't have the answer for that. Of course, we are starting with some trials and buying some trucks, some cars to start knowing it, but the charging ecosystem is limiting us because also in many of the countries, we don't only operate in urban areas, also in rural areas. So we see that maybe the start of the charging ecosystem will be in these urban areas. We'll not be in the same level. So we will face let's say, the challenge of having different fleets according to the charging system available. And the third one is the investment returns. Electric passenger vehicles have already surpassed this barrier. In fact, we are starting to buy some electric vehicles for OXXO, in which the financial scenario says, okay, it's better. We are not going to be rich, but it's better. It can be paid from the savings, and the operational impact can be overcome. But regarding the cargo or the trucks, it's another story because we need sometimes different temperatures in the truck. We have different geographical locations. For example, we made a test in Sinaloa, which is quite hot. And the performance was not the same. So it affected the performance and the autonomy of the vehicle and impacted in the cost analysis. So it's not that we're giving up. Of course, we are going forward. We are looking also to internalize the benefits of the environmental and the social impact. And well, those three issues are the ones that we're going to continue working also with our allies, with our colleagues, because we know that electromobility is not the future, it's the present, but we need to transform, think different, and see out of the box. No?
Thank you, Brahma. I agree. Whenever we talk about climate change, in the past, we always said that climate change was for our future generations, and we see it every single day in Mexico City, that the climate change is our present reality.
Exactly.
And I also agree with you, the most disruptive change in the automotive industry is the charging ecosystem, because it has migrated from just an automotive industry to a more complex one, that it involves energy, involves energy management, and then it's the digitalization and data management, but it also involves products and solutions.
Exactly.
So
different type of intelligence in mobility.
I completely agree with you. Laura, knowing that you have knowledge and contrast from different countries in which Element operates, particularly in the three countries here in the North American region, I would like to hear your opinions in the challenges in Mexico's Element point of view.
So the challenges we're having in Mexico?
In Mexico and in the region.
I don't know that well, when I see challenges, and maybe I'll just come back to what each of you mentioned, because you were asking, it sounded like when I think of, and not that we have a crisis, but the Japanese symbol that means both, sort of when you have obstacles, there's opportunity. And Vincente, you started with what sounded to me like opportunities. They're all the things we're going to do, and you talked about the obstacles. And so to me, the challenges that we have here, they're pretty much the same everywhere as it relates to all of the complexity, infrastructure, et cetera. But as you said, you're committed to getting it done. And I think over time with that commitment, all of the challenges are overcome. So I think we represent our clients. Everyone's having the same challenges, but I do think it becomes an opportunity that over time, that economic return does pay off. The infrastructure with all the great work ABB and others are doing is going to be resolved, and it creates, as we're hearing, a whole lot of more opportunity for different types of businesses and things that can be done. So I guess I don't know so much that I see it as challenges, but really as opportunities, and how can we be creative to figure out how to resolve them in the best economic way. And that makes the most sense for, all of our people that work in our companies.
I agree with you. With every single challenge comes opportunities. And those challenges, I think everyone is coming together because that challenges involve our communities and our planet. So it's not just about making our businesses more efficient or making more money, but it's also what we will leave for the planet. And I think that changes the whole narrative about our projects and our solutions. And I think one of your points that it was very interesting to touch upon was the cost effectiveness. As I was mentioning, it's not just about how to save emissions, but it's also how the electromobility makes sense from a business point of view. And we're seeing that right now with a lot of the movement, particularly here also in Mexico, where vehicle cost very similar to ICE vehicles, and where the transition it seems more possible.
Yes, I wanted to add, if possible,
for sure.
Connecting with Laura's comment, I think that a really big opportunity is collaboration, because usually as companies, this is my strategy, this is my objectives, and I want to do this. But looking at electromobilities and taking as an example element, you have many clients with trucks, vehicles, and all of them, or many of them, we should have these sustainability goals. So instead of working as silos individually, there's a big opportunity to, make a hub, and work together, share the charging system. So it's quite easy to say, right? But there is the opportunity, and we can share the cost, share the benefits, and the velocity can be different, right?
Completely agree with you. Thank you, Aurum. I would like to close this section with you, Fernanda. 3M is an energy-intensive company that is always at the front of innovation. What challenges and opportunities do you see in your industry and in Mexico to achieve your environmental goals?
As I mentioned, we participate in so many different industries. So absolutely embracing new technologies and innovation solutions can help all industries to reduce their environmental impact. So I do believe that's one of the most important and intensive actions that all industries needs to start relying in innovation and new technologies. There is no way back, right? In terms of, and I mentioned it at the beginning of my participation, so circular economy needs to be also as part of our thinking. And here, of course, we're talking about recycling, reusing, but most important, reducing. I think we need to move from recycle, which is great, of course, to a mindset of reducing or eliminating things that we do not need. And that also applies to almost all industries where we are intensively fostering this reducing waste. Renewable energies that we were all during all this podcast talking about. So, that's again, that there's no way back. Any company that is not working in terms of moving to more renewable energy is going to be totally out of market. So there needs to be a very intentional strategy and take the opportunity of all the new technologies. And you were talking about a little bit about the sustainable supply chain. I think also in the end-to-end supply chains, we have so much opportunities in transportation, but also in the products that we are manufacturing and distributing, but also the ethical labor practices. But you know, like there is a big scope that in terms of supply chain, no matter in which industry you are, despite you are in services, of course, but if not, we all participate in a very intensive reform and transition of a new and more renewable supply chain. So a lot to do there. I've been working in supply chain for more than 20 years. No, so I see so much opportunities there, and it's just in many cases are long-hanging fruits. No, that you were mentioned with your company in our case, and putting into the conversation as well the electric vehicles. Now we are starting to piloting. So we have a distribution center. Our main distribution center in Mexico is in San Luis Potosí, and we have an external warehouse that is it's about 10 kilometers from the main site. No, so now we are piloting to have an electric vehicles going back and forth our own sites, moving these products. So first of all, we want to reduce the movement of those products. First ways that we need to think about. But the other is that if we are going to do so, then we want to start using an electric vehicle. No, that is, it is easier for us to go that way. No, and then of course thinking more broader scopes. And in terms of obstacles, and we need to be very on front of this. Not all industries, not all companies, more in Mexico, can upfront the investments. And that's a reality. Now, of course, we are here, big companies, global companies, or a Mexican but very big company, that we can start talking about this. But that's not reality of our country, right? So when you talk to a medium family-owned business about this topic, is like, come on, this is not for us. So how can we support and how can we help to transition into a more affordable technologies? If not, this is not going to be for everyone, and not for countries as ours, or in Latin America region, or in many others, Africa, for example, I don't know. So that's a reality that we need to put on the table. No, it sounds fantastic to move, but the reality in many countries is not that. It's the upfront investment is not as easy. Regulatory landscapes also, and Vicente, I'm sure he can deep dive on this because he's an expert. We have been discussing in many forums that we all share all together, about the landscape in Mexico. No? So that's also a big opportunity that we have here. We will need to wait to see how the next administration start discussing, and not just discussing, but acting regarding to be more open to these technologies, but to the infrastructure, to the basics, the foundationals that in Mexico we need to solve. So that's also a big opportunity there. The consumer demand and awareness of the sustainability. And for those companies like mine that we are very heavily intensive in terms of product placement in the market, from those 1,000 products that we put in the market every year, we now are thinking about how many of those are really needed by the customers in the different industries that we operate. Now, I think that's our critical questions that we all need to put also in our pipelines, in our strategies. Because now we know that even the younger generations that are now getting older, but now are a big part of our country, they are now thinking about the sustainable piece. No, so is that product really improving not just the quality of their lives, but the impact in the climate, in the planet? No, so also that's something that we need to be very intensive in thinking around in our strategies about new products. And last but not least, collaboration and partnership. And you were also mentioning this around. No, so in order to address the sustainability challenges, we cannot do it alone. So we need here, of course, private companies, but we need the government, but we need NGOs, but we need the academy. So we all together can bring solid solutions. Because as you mentioned, in 10 years' time, we may rewind this video and we'll say, well, we were thinking about things that now are something that we are not taking, they are not so big. But in order to get into that time, we need to work together and collaborate between all of us and all the end-to-end stakeholders that participate in this new way of work and in this new way of life.
Thank you, Fred. I had so many notes from your intervention. The first one is reducing and eliminating, crucial, part of the culture as well. Thank you for putting also at the center the workers, because we know we talk about sustainability is always from a technological point of view, but we forget who is behind that, and it is crucial and important. Also, one of the things is technology. When we ever go to an international event and we see all the technological developments are always aligned with emission reduction. But one of the things that are missing sometimes is affordability. So it's a reality, it's a sensitive reality in Mexico, but it's something that is happening. And also, not talking about just challenges, but also opportunities in renewable energy in Mexico. Just like for a quick note, Mexico is located in what is called the solar belt. So it's one of the points in the planet that receives more sunlight. So we need to take advantage of that too. So we have reached the last question of the podcast.
Jorge,
Sorry,
sorry, I'm talking too much.
Please. No.
No, but Fernanda made a good point related to communication, information with clients. And even though sustainability is every day more known in the environment, I think there is a lot of misinformation. For example, with materials. It was like a novelty to change to biodegradable materials. And I talked with some friends, it's good because I could throw it in the street. No, you got to separate it. No, so there is a lot of misinformation. And for example, with electromobility, last year when we made a test, we have a user that was, but if it's raining, I'm going to get electrocuted. No, don't worry. So I wanted to put these examples on the table because we have a lot of work to inform the clients, the suppliers, all the chain, because we see that let's say the projects with the communication we share, but we haven't go deep to make all the people understand the value and the impact.
And just remind me, and Vicente, we were together in that conversation as well, to train the first line responders. Exactly. When an accident comes, and do you remember that we had a deep conversation around this? If there's an accident with an electric vehicle, does the first line responders know how to react? Exactly. I think the answer today is no, at least in Mexico.
Exactly.
No, so even there's a lot of communication, training, and sensibilization around the topic.
Exactly.
Distinguish fire, car, electric well versus gasoline or combustion-based, completely different dimension.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. The transition needs the education at the center, as Laura was mentioning in one of the interventions. It seems small, but it's very complex, and we need to train and to communicate from every single level of a company. Now, moving to the last part of the podcast, that is around best practices. So far we already discussed about our targets, then our challenges, then also the technological solutions, such as a company like ABB is moving forward. But now I want to close this on best practices, taking advantage that most of the companies here have subsidiaries or operations in other parts of the world. So I would like to start with you, Laura, on that. What best practices could Mexico or could be from your own industry, but also from other industries as well. What best practices can you talk a bit more about for Element in Mexico, but also in Element in some other parts of the world?
Yeah, I'm happy, and maybe more broadly, and I think we heard it already, so I'm not going to go into the multiple examples of great things our clients have done or are doing. It was more, for me, best practices, and it's what I heard from everyone around the table, is you don't wait for policy or legislative changes. We all know we need to do this for the future. And so best practice is people that actually, you determine where you're headed. And so if we're going to zero emissions, you make the commitment and then you do what it takes to get to where you need to go to. And you come up with the roadmap, and then you go at it intelligently. So whether that's doing minimal viable products, proof of concepts, before you do something at scale so you don't make mistakes. But a best practice is just make the commitment so you see like the end state, and that's what you work towards, which is what you had said when you started. And I just think when people don't do that, and I mean, we can apply that to anything in life, and you start to do incrementalism and you wait and you do a bit, you never end up where you want to be and at the right place, and it always takes longer and you're disappointed. So you just have to start by making the commitment and then figuring out how you deliver.
I agree with you. As I was mentioning, I remember that from high school, always talking about climate change as the next thing or for the next generation, but it's now something that we have to act right now. We don't have to wait. I think the conversation is moving around not waiting for the right policy or not waiting also for the right solution, but start acting and building on the way, always collaborating with others, and we are all in the same ship today, so completely. Okay, Vicente, now I want to turn the question to you to help us also understand what best practices from ABB you have seen in other parts of the world that can be replicated here in Mexico.
Yeah. I like the comment that we have, and the first thing we have to do in terms of Mexico is face reality. Okay? Because that should be the starting point. The other one is that there is a point of what you can do as a company, is like you can do as an individual, as a person, and then the we. And in the we, I like a lot the comment from Abraham, from Fernanda about how you should engage with the government, the companies, and society, okay? And this, you will do it together. And then decide who you want to partner with, okay? Who really aligns with your values when in terms of technology or your behaviors and everything for that. And then we say that we're very proud to say that we leverage things in the we as a company, but also you need to put some actions. And when we see associations, as ABB, we are part of the EV100. So we are committed by 2030 that all our fleet will be electric. No questions asked. And we have to start by now. All our factories in Mexico, this is Mexico, all those have electrical chargers, including our office, our main office here in Mexico City there. And also you started to leverage, when you started to do that, you're starting to have conversations with other colleagues in other part of the world and colleagues that they might do a little bit further on something. So when you see that our factories in Germany, in Italy, and other places, they have accomplished what we call in ABB the mission to zero, okay? That they have both all green energy being consumed, okay, but at the same time have strategies for monitoring for energy efficiency. Then you have all this snowball effect, okay? That everybody wants to replicate, everyone wants to be in that club, and that's something that we like a lot. And we try to do that as well with partnerships. And when we say partnerships, we are proud to be with Formula E, okay? The ABB Formula E and be the global sponsors of e-mobility. So now we are in the generation 3 cars that can generate 40% of the energy use around the race. And this is completely fun because it can be on to more than 300 kilometers an hour. But it happened to me that being the first races when the person leading for 2-3 seconds lost the race because they needed to change the car because they cannot complete the race with one car. They needed 2 cars, and it was just completed. So right now, I'm happy to see that more than 500 people can see that electronically, okay, around the globe. In Mexico, we have close to 60,000 participants, and we have at least 12,000 people that we call ABB and our friends. And this is employee, family, customers, suppliers, and everything that they can enjoy. I can see how fascinating it is to see and no noise, okay, a nice conversation with your family when you're watching the race, but that might not happen with other automotive sports into that. Regulatory and in terms of best practices, that's something that we need to leverage. Norway is something that leading the edge. When this happened in Norway, in the 54% of all new cars sales in 2020 were electric, okay? Just but having a clear policy. And that's something that we also participate locally to try to look into promote into that. Standardization. We have discussed before this conversation that standardization is important. We have a discussion right now, what is the best standards for Mexico that apply. Well, we need to look at what is the install base, but we need to look more into the future. What is a more reliable, smart, okay, and safe way to charge cars. You mentioned about when it's raining, okay, but also having an accident can bring a completely different dimensions. What happened, especially in fast charging and ultra fast charging, and we see more bigger vehicles into that. The infrastructure readiness is something that we also take that seriously, and as we have a very large operations in China, we learn a lot, okay, about new technology that we develop, not just for China, but also that we can combine those experiences. We have tremendous large operations in that, and we put that also to bring those in other locations like Mexico. And last but not least, as we see that the EV market share was about 25% in Netherlands, also helping us a lot. What is happening when you charge in Norway, or Netherlands, in completely different scope, in a very high temperature, but ultra low temperature into that, in terms of conditions into that. I mean, you need to get out of your car and charge. Okay, also what happened during night in terms of continue to be safe. So right now we discussed it, I mentioned this before, that the transportation contributes between 24-27% of CO2 emissions, but everything will change especially by 2030. And we see that what we do as a company and the we and the I, okay, the bigger impact in terms of reducing, we see that we can reduce with up to 600 megatons, okay, of CO2 if we have our customers, not just with energy transitions, but also having to happen to see a much more energy efficient operations, including electromobility. I mean, and on top of that, it's going to be a lot of fun because those cars are super fast on the zero speed.
Thank you, Vicente. I agree with you. Well, going back to the education part, I think ABB and our friends is a very good strategy to familiarize with the mobility, the electromobility, but also with the technology in a fun way. So I celebrate that too. I think one of the main takeaways for me in this podcast is three things: commitment, partnerships, and action. And in that, for your 2030 fleet electrification, you can count with Element to help you transition in the best way possible too. Finally, the last intervention of the podcast on best practices, I want to give the floor to the expert in public policy. Daniel, tell us what policies we can implement in Mexico and which countries can serve as an example from AT&T's point of view.
Thank you. Well, just thinking on this automotive industry, for Mexico it represents close to 3% GDP. We were discussing this offline with Vicente about this document you published last year, which has a long-term view of one industry which might change the country. So when, as Fer says, if you know which is your starting point, it's going to be easier to know where you're going, and you will achieve this on a more easy way. For us, for the internet companies, we play a very important role in terms of the electromobility, basically because of two things. One, in terms of production. We need to produce faster, better, but in a more sustainable way. And 5G is key to make this change, because you have less emissions, you have less accidents, a lot of things happening there. I like to think now with vehicles, how much they have changed in these years. It's more like tablets on wheels, because they are connected, they are producing information, they are collecting information. So it's a big change on that. From AT&T in the US, we have a very nice example in a collaboration with Ford. They have a factory in Michigan where they produce the F-150, and this is all being produced with a 5G network, a private 5G network. And this is a new way of producing things, and it goes for automatization, and it changed a lot. The second thing is something that Vicente was also mentioning about chargers, electric chargers. All are connected, and the faster is and the better quality of the internet connection, the latency and all the components that will make an ultra fast or faster charging of the vehicle. So, and this is where regulation matters. This is where public policies matters, because you can have one country if you have one policy, but if you do another thing, you have another reality of the country. Abraham was mentioning about the renewable energies and all the challenges we have there. In terms of connectivity, Mexico has this funny approach that connectivity and internet is a great source of tax collection. So we are missing a lot of productivity and competitiveness. We don't change that approach. No, we have more expensive spectrum and frequencies on the world. We are 60% higher than Latin America. We just impose a tax for fiber. All the chargers are connected by fiber, and we decide to have a 35% tax on the import of this fiber with countries that we don't have like an international treaty. So if we really, it's not just to move in the right direction, it's just to move in the right direction, but at the right pace, at the right velocity, because otherwise you lose competitiveness. And I think that's very important. Just talking about these best practices, we're also exporting best practices to other countries. In the case of AT&T, for example, we start installing some recycling boxes for all the electronic waste, and we have in 90% of our stores. We collect around 21 tons of like devices and batteries and other things, and that's something that our partners in the US is now implementing too. So we're very proud about that. And maybe in 3 years' time we will have a podcast talking about all the electronic waste, because it's a lot, and it's going to be really something huge. And I would like just to finish with one best practice that Abraham Cannon, that I think is like the top best practice, which is collaboration. This SDG 17 regarding about alliances is the only way that we can move forward for, like Fer said, that sustainability is for everyone, because if it's not for everyone, it's for no one.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for bringing the digital topic into the agenda, because it's often not very discussed when we talk about electromobility or transition, but it's also not just about electromobility. We need everything connected in all of our industries to be more efficient, but also to pollute a bit less. So in that sense, Mexico has huge opportunities in terms of connectivity. I always tell our customers that the vehicles are not longer just vehicles, are small data centers. And we need to extract those data to make our lives easier, but also safer for those in the road. And for that reason, we need the connectivity at the center of the conversation. Last but not least, thank you for also explaining about exporting best practices. When we talk about best practice in Mexico, we always talk about how other countries, Western countries, can contribute to Mexico, but Mexico has a lot to teach to the world, and thank you for bringing that as well. Well, with this, we come to an end of the podcast, which beyond a normal chat, it has been really enriching and educational. I personally learned a lot from each of you, a lot. I want to thank everyone for their time and dedication, for making this podcast in English. This way, we will be able to reach a wider audience from which we hope to receive comments in order to replicate this forum, not in 10 years, but probably in less time. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias.